So let's check out how easy it is to get started using the Infragistics Windows Forms Ultra Message Box Manager component. So you've always shown messages in your applications by popping up a message box, but if you ever wanted to, like a much richer, much more formatted and more controllable message box that has more areas that can be styled with interactivity and buttons and things of that nature, then the Ultra Message Box Manager component, which is right here in your NetAdvantage toolbox for Windows Forms, that's the one you want to use. So to get started, I have a form here with a button, and again, very simple, just to show you how to use this. I'm going to double click on this component and get it into my component area. And when I double click on the button to get to the event handler, I've already written some code in here so that way you don't sit here watching me write the whole thing. So let's just review some of the code here. So the first thing you need to do is instantiate a message box info object, Ultra Message Box Info object. You create that and basically populate all of its properties with the customizations that you're interested in. So like the style, there's like different styles. If I take this off, and you have standard, default, and Vista style. So let's go for Vista. Then you have the different types of buttons here. So if I remove that, like the typical types of message box buttons that you'd expect, like OK, cancel, retry, cancel. So this one here, just like leave it to OK, cancel where it was. Then there's different intrinsic icons. So that was error, but you have all these other guys like hand, none, question. So you have that as well. So you can customize that. And that's for the message. That's the icon portion of that. Then you have the default button. Like which one is the default button? So here we have, which one of the buttons on there are going to be the default button. Meaning, when you press the enter button, which one will be fired without you clicking on it explicitly. Then we have just setting some appearance objects. So the Infragistics appearance objects, right? You have the back color 2, then you have fonts, images, and all that stuff. So you have the full power of the Infragistics appearance objects throughout this entire API for the message box. So this is the actual button appearance. So you could set up all the various buttons and headers and footers with all the other appearance objects associated as well. Then we have a caption here, so we set it to this here. Then the caption property gets the string. And then we also have some other stuff. We have the header area, then basically the header appearance. So the header has its own appearance object. We set an image to something in our image list. Then we have the header message. So here's a string that we're providing it. Then this is the content area. So if you're familiar with the Infragistics formatted text editor and formatted link label, that same type of markup language, basically HTML, can be used to format your text. You just put in a plain old string, but you could do things with like hyperlinks, spans, multi-lines as you see here, so you could do that as well. You could always pop up one of the Infragistics formatted link label components, throw that onto your form, write some stuff in there and format it through the Visual Studio property window, because that pops up the designer. Then just copy and paste that text that's wrapped up and formatted into your code if you want to do something like that, or put it into an external resource file, because that's the best practice, so that way it's not hard-coded in your app. And then we set the footer message right here, and then we basically set the button alignment. And then finally we show this by calling the show message box method, and you have to pass in the message info. There's no overload without this. You always have to have message. You have to have the Ultra Message Box info object passed in, so it's all populated. So let's run it and see what it looks like. And warning, I'm not a graphical designer, so if it doesn't look absolutely beautiful, that's my disclaimer. So here's the message box. So here we have a hyperlink that works, goes to Infragistics.com. We have our OK, cancel, and notice how this is button 1, 2, and 3 as known by through that default button enumeration. And then because we set it to button 1, focus is right on the OK button, which is button 1. Our image, which is just some random image I have, our header, our footer, some styling, the icon, and the bolds, where it says storage status, and then the line break and another line break. So that's basically how this renders at runtime. So as you can see, it's the ability for this to be set up so that it's richer than the default message box is very powerful. So there's a lot more granularity and capabilities than the default Visual Studio message box. So if that's something that you want to do here in your application, you have the right component at your disposal for you to use.
Infragistics. On the web at infragistics.com.